The 4th of July is here and we're going to celebrate it the best way we know how. And that's going to be by eating traditional American foods, peanut butter, throughout the day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all in the form of the American hamburger. Because what's more American than that? So strap in and let's celebrate the 4th of July right. So to start off, we're going to first go with our breakfast burger. And to start this breakfast burger, for the buns, I'm going to use my buttermilk biscuit recipe. The link will be down in the description, but here I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to mix up all of my dry ingredients together, and you really don't want to skip this step, especially right now, because the more mixing you do now, the less you'll have to do in the future. And to make sure these buttermilk biscuits are ultra flaky, we're going to start off with some cold hard butter. And normally you can just cut this up into cubes and then break it together with your own fingers, but here the cheese grater works really fast, and you get to look really weird if someone were to, God forbid, walk in on you while cheese grating butter. So to keep everything cold, we're going to throw those in the freezer while we get together our wet ingredients. And we're going to start that off with, of course, buttermilk and some maple syrup. Make sure we're going to mix that well together, and we're going to throw you back in the fridge to cool down a bit. And now back onto our dry ingredients. Here I'm just going to toss in the butter chunks that we've created, and this is why I really love the cheese grating process, because it's really easy. The butter's already at that perfect size for ultra flaky biscuit. All you got to do is just mix it in. And once we get it nice and well mixed, we're going to start drizzling in our wet ingredients. And once added, we're going to give it a nice good forking. And because of the cheese grating technique, all the butter is already relatively the same size, but if you find any chunks, just break them up with your hands. And if the dough seems a little too dry, just add in either more buttermilk or more maple syrup. Here I'm going to opt to add in more maple syrup just for the depth of flavor. And if you happen to feel like your dough's getting too warm and the butter starts melting, just throw it back in the fridge or freezer for 5-10 minutes to let it cool down before you work on it again. And as you can see from this cross section here, we have nice butter chunks in there. All those butter chunks are going to flake and puff up when they bake, causing a really flaky biscuit. And here I'm just going to add to that layering effect by cutting into 4s, stacking them on top of each other, and then pressing them down. And now I suggest you make this a day ahead of time. Just throw it in an airtight bag and let it sit overnight in the fridge, or you can of course make it even further out. Just put it in an airtight bag and freeze it. And I mean, you do you, but who doesn't want frozen buttermilk biscuits on ready? And here I am in the morning. I'm going to first start by cranking my oven up nice and hot, get it preheated to 400 degrees. And while that's preheating, we're going to take our dough block out and start rolling it out until it's about a 1/4 inch thick all around. And the reason you want it to be fairly on the thicker side is just because all that thickness will add extra puffiness, a delicious texture. And when baking, let's be honest, thicker is always better. So with that being said, I'm going to now cut out my buns, and I'm not quite sure what size I'm going to go with, so I'm going to try a few different sizes here and then just see how large my patty is going to be. And now to this, I'm going to do a quick egg wash. This is just going to be 1 whole egg and a splash of milk, and the egg wash is really going to help things brown on the outside of these buttermilk biscuits, giving it a great color. And just make sure you're getting everything, even the edges. And after everything's been well moistened, into the oven it'll go for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until nicely golden brown on the outside, like this. And just to do an extra flexing on your friends, give that thing a good rub down with some extra butter. Now on to the pork sausage we're going to make here, and you can use whatever type of seasoning you want. Here I'm going to have it all listed down in the description what seasoning I like to use, but we're really just making a breakfast sausage. So I'm just going to add in all of my different spices and give it a nice good mixing, as well as a bit of maple syrup. Again, why not just add a nice sugary twist to it. And now on to the hash browns. Here I'm just going to grate down a nice russet potato and make sure I rinse this out really well, get all of that extra starch off. As you can see, after the first rinsing, the water is going to be really brown, but after rinsing it for a while, it's going to come out nice and clear and clean. And here I am going to add it to a nice dry clean tea towel, and I'm going to squeeze out as much of the water as I possibly can. You definitely don't want to skip this step. I'm even going to leave it off to the side to let it dry even further on a paper towel, while adding a bit of chopped up onions and even some salt. And the salt's also going to help draw out some of that extra moisture. And to that, I'm also going to add in a nice sprinkling of pepper, and feel free to season it any way you want. Here I'm just keeping it kind of bland, just because of all the other ingredients I'm going to be adding. And to a dry frying pan, I'm going to throw in some bacon, get that nice and crispy, put it off to the side, but make sure I save all of the grease, because that's when I'm going to be frying my hash browns in. And I think I'm going to do a video on a deep dive for hash brown making later on, but you really don't want to flip these until it's nicely browned all on the outside. Otherwise, they just fall apart. And now I'm going to get my sausage patties ready, get them nice and cooked up, and get a poached egg going as well. And here we're just going to be adding even more layers to this already American breakfast burger. And to that we're going to add our American cheese, because what's more American than that? And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So here I'm just going to get the cheese a little bit more melted by spritzing it down with some water, get that steam going, just to help melt it a little bit better. And we are finally ready for our final assembly. So with the buttermilk biscuit bun on the bottom, I'm going to add some bacon. Now I'm going to add our sausage patty with our hash brown and a poached egg, just to top it all off. And I know you guys have been waiting for this moment. Here we're going to slice it in half and see what we got. And oh my god, is this thing juicy. I mean, really, this burger looks amazing, tastes amazing, and if it wouldn't give you a heart attack, I would have it just about every day. And for our lunch and dinner burgers, we're going to be throwing them on top of some homemade buns. And the recipe I'm going to go with here is going to be Joshua Weissman's. And I mean, it really is tasty and they really are amazing. I'll have the link of the video down in the description where you can follow his recipe. And yeah, they're awesome. So now I'm just going to shut up and let you guys watch me cook. And don't worry, I will have timestamps down in the description so you can skip ahead and see the different parts of the video. Okay, and I'm back, and just in time to smear these with a little extra layer of butter on top, just for some glossiness as well as some added flavor. And with our buns now being done, we're off to our lunch and dinner burgers. And for our lunch burger, we're going to start off with the classic peanut butter and jelly sandwich and burgerfy it. And I'm not sure if that's an actual word, but it is now. And of course, I'm going to start this one off with bacon again. Hope you guys see a pattern here. There's going to be bacon in just about every burger. And to that bacon grease, again, don't throw it out. We're going to saute some onions, and in the sauteed onions, I'm going to throw in a dollop of jelly. And I mean, really, it seems weird, but this extra sweetness adds a ton of flavor to these caramelized onions. I mean, I might just start doing this in the future. And oddly enough, I believe I read somewhere that extra sharp cheddar cheese goes well with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, so that's what I'm going to be using as the cheese for this burger. And of course, you should always want to grade your own cheese, because it's usually just going to be a better quality than the pre-shredded stuff. Now time for the beef. Here I'm just using a very standard 80-20 ground beef, and I'm going to form it into the shape of patties. And I'm going to pay close attention that I don't overwork it and mush it all together too hard, just because that's how you keep it nice and loose and juicy. And with that sitting off to the side with our hands washed, we're going to make our peanut butter sauce. And because this is a peanut butter and jelly burger, I really want the peanut butter flavor to come out, so I'm not going to do a whole lot to the peanut butter sauce here. I'm just going to pretty much heat it up with some butter, add some Worcestershire sauce to taste, and bam, there you go, peanut butter sauce for a burger. And because we're in the summer and it's super nice outside, why not get to cooking outside? So with cooking outside, I usually like to use a charcoal grill just because of the added flavor. And as you can see, my charcoal grilling skills really aren't that great, but hey, I'm trying. So feel free to leave any types of tips or tricks in the comment section down below that might help my grilling ability. And for our assembly, I'm going to throw some bacon on, as well as that cheddar cheese that I was talking about earlier. And of course, I'm going to toast up our buns because, let's be honest, who doesn't want toasty buns? And I'm just going to close her up, let the heat rise, get that cheese all nice and melted, and I'm going to move in for our final assembly. And with our final assembly, I'm going to put a nice thick layer of jelly on the bottom. Of course, just regular jelly for that added sweetness. Then our burger with our bacon and cheddar cheese. And then I'm going to put even more jelly on top of that in the form of our caramelized jelly onions, which in all honesty taste really kick. And to the top bun, we're going to add our peanut butter sauce here, slap that thing on, give it a nice little squish down, little pat, and we're going to cut this sucker open. And in all honesty, this burger was absolutely amazingly tasty. But now, of course, we're on to dinner. And for dinner, we're just going to keep it a good all-American cheeseburger here, except we're going to be using bison. But before we start with that, we're going to actually make my special secret burger sauce. And this sauce is really amazing. I suggest you guys give it a try. And of course, all of the ingredients and amounts are going to be written down in the description. But I will suggest making this at least a day ahead of time, just because giving it that extra day to really combine all of the flavors turns this into something really special. And here is just a really good base. Of course, you can add whatever types of seasonings you want, really make it your own, but this on its own is really something special and amazing. And after giving this a really good mix, making sure all of our ingredients are well combined, I'm going to add some salt and pepper, of course, to taste. And that's right, I do taste my food. And now on to the actual burger. And like I said, I'm going to keep it really basic, but I am going to be using ground bison, which is the national mammal of the United States, so why not eat it? So for our toppings, I'm going to also add in some nice cut up red onions. I really like red onions as opposed to white onions, just because on their own they are more sweet. And for another one of our toppings, we're going to be using a tomato. Now, even though tomatoes aren't in season, so they are kind of bland right now, another pro tip would be to salt your tomatoes before you actually serve them, just to bring out whatever little flavor they do have, and it really does make it more tasty. So not only are we going to be adding yellow American cheese to this, but we're also going to be adding a nice smoked Gouda. I just think smoked Gouda goes really well with any type of burger, but you be the judge. So with all of our toppings done, I'm going to now move on to forming our patties. Again, I just want to kind of lightly pack it together. If you really force it all together, you're going to end up with a rubbery puck at the end, so just be aware of that. And of course, after I'm done forming our patties, I'm going to liberally salt them and pepper them. Of course, you can use, again, whatever seasoning you want, but here I just want to use salt and pepper to really let the bison meat shine. And of course, after we're done with our seasoning process, our two patties are now done. Oh, and if I didn't say it before, this is going to be a double cheeseburger. So with living in the land of excess, why not be excessive and add two patties? Now, when I go out to grill these, I'm going to be really conscious of the temperature as well, just because these bison patties are really low in fat, so that means they have a tendency to dry out really quickly, so you do just want to cook them really quick. And fun fact, bison, even though they are super lean, they are actually the largest land mammal in the US or North America in general, weighing over usually 2,000 pounds. But like I said, that's a really lean 2,000 pounds, I guess, because they can run up to 35 miles an hour, so they got wheels. And with enough trivia aside, we're going to start assembling our burger. Of course, after our patties are cooked, I'm going to layer the two patties with a nice bacon and cheese layer in between and throw some smoked Gouda on top. And I'm going to close the grill door and let it just melt a little bit better. And once it's done, I'm going to pull it all off really carefully, throw it on a plate, and then bring it inside for the final assembly. And now that we're inside, we're going to start by assembling this burger. And of course, we're going to start off with a nice layer of my super special burger sauce that we made earlier. Now I'm going to slap on the burgers, and I'm going to superset that with a nice layer of red onions. And I'm just going to place them on top all fancy like, that way we get some good pictures afterwards. And on top of our red onion layer, I'm going to add on our tomatoes, of course seasoning them as I do it, because like I said earlier, it really does bring out the flavor. And on top of that, I'm going to throw some lettuce, because why not kid ourselves and make ourselves believe that we're actually eating healthy. And again, with our special burger sauce on the top bun, because it is just that amazing, we're going to top this thing off, and then there you go. And I mean, all these burgers came out absolutely fantastically. This was a super fun video to make. You guys should definitely try out these burgers, and I hope you guys are celebrating this holiday with some great family and friends and some even better food. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook for some behind the scenes access on some recipe developments. And yeah, God bless America, guys.